Before this video starts, there will be a shout out later today, so stay tuned for more information. And be prepared. There's going to be a shout out later today. But in the meantime, let's talk about how the PlayStation 4 is being discontinued and what are my thoughts and reactions about it. At least the servers are still up. That's a good sign, at least. My opinion and my thoughts about the PS4 being discontinued, not the servers, but just the console itself, my opinion is actually bummed me out a little bit. I know, even though, I'm mainly a Nintendo person, but I also love Marvel and the other franchise. Also, I love PC and Xbox. Also, I love a tiny bit of Sony, too. I still have love for Sony. I don't really hate them that much. I just don't like when they do stupid stuff. In my opinion, the PlayStation 4 was definitely had a lot of potential on it. Sure, it was Sony's, own thing, but by the looks of it, it was actually still a good console. It wasn't that bad, in my opinion, but a lot of people actually still like it. By the looks of it, it's still a good console. When the PS4 launched it, and when I first saw the PS4 in action, even though developers were still learning at that time, but take MKX for example, and see how that movement almost felt like realistic. See how Scorpion's moving like that, and how the Rock is. Sorry about that. See how the Rock background is moving right behind him, and how his elbow is moving pretty fast. That almost looked realistic, and his character movement as well. Even though the graphics during that time weren't that good, but the developers were still learning during that time. Yeah, the face animations was basically their own thing, but yeah, during the time, they were actually still learning. Look at those, those quick movements almost look like a CGI accurate movie. I'll give the game some credit during that time. They were definitely ahead of their time. And then we fast forward a couple of, I would say just 1 year later, the graphics were becoming more realistic. Look at these realistic graphics.
Hi, Daniel. My name is Connor. How do you know my name? I know a lot of things about you. I've come to get you out of this. You lied to me, Connor. You lied.
Holy crap, those graphics, look at those realistic graphics. Those were, groundbreaking. Holy crap, when I first saw that, that was a day that really shook me. So ever since they used those graphics, developers were like, you know what? Let's use those same things for our other popular games. So they used it for The Last of Us 1, which was actually pretty successful at the time. And yes, The Last of Us 1 is lords better than the sequel. I'll dive deep into why this ruined Sony's reputation at a later date. But we're just going to talk about Sony's evolution of games on the PS4. And then later that year, we also finally got a built from the ground up Crash Bandicoot game, aka the Insane Trilogy. And let me tell you, this remake, holy crap, this remake was golden. Look at all those graphics at the time. They were built from the ground up. Also, you can finally play it on all the other consoles, including the Switch. So yeah, no more console wars anymore for Crash and Mario. Now through Sonic and both Mario, Sonic, and Crash Bandicoot are friends now. So yeah, pretty nice. Man, that was pretty cool. And then, of course, later in 2018, which was Spider-Man's best year ever, we actually finally got Spider-Man PS4. Holy crap, let me tell you, during last year, the hype train was real for this, and Insomniac Games didn't disappoint. And oh my god, if you've seen the hype in the reviews first, you know this game was successful. Oh my god, look at all those graphics. This is the classic suit. You can see a lot of potential details, how the spider logo is had a little bit of a 3D effect, while the Vipers On the classics, you would have something new, and the back logo looks like I would say like a rubber effect, and the eyes. Oh my god, that looks so beautiful. Oh yeah, this is footage from DVESF. So yeah. And still to this day, I'm still seeing 3 more people play this successful masterpiece. I mean, Stanley would be proud during that time. I miss him very much. Now here is one tiny little con. Now I know, while some people despise Nintendo Switch Online, then Sony had their own issue during that time. What is PlayStation Now? Well, it's basically like Google Stadia. It streams games from an internet, like one of those cloud games where it streams games from the internet, and you can play them directly from your console with no downloads at all. But here's the problem. I heard reviewers saying, quote, like, it has a tiny bit of lag and other, like, weird stuff. And still to this day, people still despise it. But that's the only con I have for you. Yeah, I'm still not getting Avengers. Even if SpiderMan wasn't a PlayStation exclusive, I would just get the game on my PC. Death Stranding was another game. Now, it had a little bit of a rough start, but after a while, the game got good. I actually reached out to a guy earlier in one of these videos, and he told me that the game actually is now good. By the looks of it. Like, even the IGN score, look at this IGN's review score, like, perfectly balanced. Even though it's a little bit of a confusing, like, review, but I would say I'll give it some credit. It was a tiny bit good, in my opinion. Like, at least it was pretty good. Like, the graphics were pretty nice. And then we get to the final game of the PS4 era, Ghost of Tsushima, which is also another magnificent game. During that time, let me tell you, it was the final PS4 game at the time, and the graphics during that time were beautiful. There were a bunch of brutal deaths, limb dismemberment, and a lot of cool stuff during that time. I'll give it credit, it was pretty good. Damn. So what about the console itself? The console itself was actually pretty good, in my opinion. It had no issues, and by the looks of it, it was actually pretty nice. It was your standard, regular, black thing, you name it. And I do love the controller as well. Like, the controller itself looks classy, especially that bump thing, whatever it's called. So yeah. Yeah, during that time, it was actually pretty good. Like, there were new models out there for it as well. Like, we got the PlayStation Pro and Sim Edition. And by the looks of it, it was actually pretty good. Like, the PS4, in my opinion, was still a good console. And it always will be a good console. Get different themes for your PS4, different graphics, you name it. Also, they released a SpiderMan version of it, which was actually from a collector's edition, which had a lot of potential. I mean, during that time was pretty cool. I mean, the PS4 was pretty good in my opinion. I'll give it a 9 out of 10. Like, amazing. Like, I actually loved the PS4 better than the next-gen console. Say what you want about it, but I saw one of my friends play it at a youth center. By the looks of it. And the game had a lot of good... And the game itself, the console itself had a lot of good potential. I mean, the PS4 is still a good console. And nowadays, now that it's, quote, discontinued, the prices are finally going a tiny bit lower, but we're gonna wait for a little while. Hopefully they go lower. They better. And yeah, it's been said and done. The consoles are finally... The PS4 consoles are going down a lower. Make sure you find one that's not that expensive. One last feature. The PlayStation Vita. Oh, let me guys say something. This was like basically the PlayStation's 3DS. And it was the Switch, but the one before the Switch. But a tiny bit like lower graphics. The PlayStation Vita may look like a rip-off of a 3DS. But it's actually a tiny bit of an upgrade of the 3DS. And the Vita had a lot of potential. And the best part, you can remote play it on your PS4. Basically, it was like Super Smash Bros. Where you connect your 3DS to the Wii U, but for the PlayStation. That time was pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie. I'll give it credit. And the little handheld itself can run a tiny bit of powerful, awesome home console games on it. Well, unfortunately, not all their games were pretty good. When people first saw the amazing Spider-Man on the PlayStation Vita, they were like, "Oh my god, I'm very excited for free roam now." Well, close enough. I mean, I wouldn't care how a tiny bit downgraded it looks, but by the looks of it, at least they did a good job. I'll give it some credit. But basically, on the Vita's own, it was basically like a portable PS3, by the looks of it. Sadly, the Vita got discontinued and it sadly died. I mean, yeah, I was also really looking forward to getting it, but sadly, it got discontinued. Woo. But hey, on the bright side, at least there's some that are not that expensive, just like a PS4, and okay, never mind, not all of the Vitas aren't that expensive. I'll give them credit there. In the end, the PS4 is still a good console in my opinion. I mean, sure, it had some of its tiny issues, but in my opinion, it had a lot of potential in it. Like, during the time, the graphics were still good, and everything else was still magnificent. The PS4, in my opinion, was the best potential of PlayStation. In my opinion, it was PlayStation's best console. And I'm gonna say the truth out of my chest. I think it's Lord's better than the PS5 crap we got. While the PS5 does look like a sexy new shiny beast by the looks of it, I mean, while it does look pretty cool on the white and all the other stuff, but it almost looks like it's been rushed, and it's very big, and in my opinion, even though it still has a bright future ahead of them, it's very expensive and it's hard to find. Crashing software issues and a frustrating whine and system being bricked. I mean, problems for anyone that spends $4.99 on it. Yeah. Here's my suggestion. I'd rather you stick to the PS4 no matter what people tell you to upgrade. Stick to the PS4 whatever you do. Just stick with it. It's a good console. It's a better console. Avoid the PS5. It's garbage. I like the modern gen better than the next gen. Like, look at this gen. This was a perfect gen. In the old days, there was no, like, console war fighting, even though there was a tiny bit. And look at it now. It's all completely good. Like, in the old days, they were all friends. What was the problem? Now we have one question. Who the hell invented gaming online? Like, this is just my wild theory. Nintendo just didn't decide it on themselves to make gaming online. Probably someone from the gaming industry told them to make the Switch online. So yeah, that makes all three companies even, fair and square, without one saying, "Mine's better than yours," or "Mine's better than yours." I'm not a huge fan of fanboys. Fanboys don't like me, so I don't like fanboys. Suck it up and be friends and get used to it. The PS5 is garbage. There. Glad I can finally take that hot take out of my chest. So yeah, I'm really gonna miss the PS4. I mean, it still had a lot of potential ahead of its time, and yeah. Just keep your PS4. Ignore those fanboys. They're garbage. They're ponies. Yeah, keep your PS4. It's better. Also, yeah. That's also the real reason why I made this Spider-Man Insomniac game mask by the looks of it. Well, hope you guys liked this video. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys in the next video, so peace out.